What I'm going to do today is explain in detail how to engage the hips for delivering power. Whether we're throwing a hook in boxing, whether we're swinging a golf club, or even if we're just simply swinging a baseball bat, anything that rotates the body, the shoulders, obviously engages the hips also. So I'm going to show you 3 real simple ways that I break down the hip movement so that I can gain more power from it. We're always told to connect the feet to the shoulders, but of course along that path or that kinetic chain, you've got the hips in the middle. We're told by Chinese Kung Fu practitioners that the power comes from the Dantian and this energy from here. We're told with ab exercises that this pushing or the Valsalva maneuver, this holding the breath and pushing is where power is generated come. But nobody really ever shows you how to engage the hip itself. So I'm going to try to get you to see how it is I develop it. First off, I'll do a very quick demonstration of how I swing the stick. I'll show how I throw a punch, and then we'll talk a little bit about baseball, and then we'll get in, or golf clubs, and then I'll get into the specific exercise. So first off, when I swing a stick, I don't swing the stick with just my hands or my grip. That is this. When I swing the stick fast, it's actually my hips. If you break it down, I'll show it to you first quickly, then I'll break it down and show it to you piece by piece. So I always keep the stick clipped to my body or tight to my body. This is what we get from Balintawak. So when I move the stick out and bring it back, unlike a lot of other people, I don't swing the stick like this and try to generate power from the shoulder, throwing the stick out, if you will. I'm actually using my hip to generate most of the power. The actual movement of the stick is really regulated or delegated or transferred through my shoulder, of course, but through the elbow more. I'm moving the elbow more than I am moving the shoulder more, if that makes any sense, and I'll show you what I mean. So when I go ahead and hit with the stick, it's that quick. So I'll do that again one more time. What you may not be catching is, I'll turn sideways, it's the hip. It's a small motion. If I slow this down, there's my hip moving, then the stick moves, then I'm bringing the hip back as I'm bringing the stick back to the rest position. So it's really, it's this. I'm trying to slow it down so you catch it. So that's what starts the movement. Now when we do it fast, you don't really pick up on the hip. It's skipped, if you will, because you're busy watching the stick. So if I move the stick from right here, there you go, that's the stick movement. I'm just doing this and then bringing the stick back. Second, if I may, one of the reasons the stick appears fast is because of my recovery, not because of shooting the stick out. Just the same way with a punch. I'm moving my hip and then my hand's moving, but it's fast. It's just a millisecond before that hand is launched. I'm not launching the hand and then the hip is catching up. It's actually my hip is, I'm going to exaggerate this now, pulling, it's this motion. I'm exaggerating this now, but that's the motion. You can start off by experimenting yourself to see really where the power is. Now the second thing you'll notice is I use my shoulder a lot. So the hip is a part that's constantly neglected, I think. The second part is the shoulder rotation. When we say rotation, it's a circle this way, not this way, or in a horizontal plane. So the hip is rotating, and then that shoulder's rotating. I'm trying to really exaggerate this to really get you to understand what it is I'm doing. The wrist is never bent. The forearm, which weighs about 15 pounds in conjunction with the hand, is actually what's delivering this. And when you're consciously doing that, you're going to find out that your punch will increase right away. So it's this hip rotation, but how do we get this hip rotation? If I even throw a hook, it's the same thing. You can throw it this way. That's just strictly with the arms. But then you can throw it with the waist, and now I throw it with my feet. There's a difference. You try those three progressions. First arm, second arm hip, or actually hip first, then arm, and then whole body turning. One of the things that makes also the punches look, or actually are faster, look faster, or makes them faster, is the recovery. When I throw this out, I'm not just doing this. It's this. It's the bringing back of the hand, and it's the scapula. It's pulling back with the scapula. It's not pulling back with the arm. That's the bicep bringing it back. It's the scapula. It's this extension, then that, and that. That's the kinetic link there. I'm pulling with the scapula, pulling with the bicep, bringing the hand back to the rest position. I hope that's helpful. Now I'll show you a couple club exercises that tie into this and help me to develop this. If you use a little heavier weight, I'm going to show you this with a heavier weight and a lighter weight. That is a heavier club and a lighter club. If you use a little heavier club when you start this exercise, you're going to see that it'll break down these separate parts of the chain. So I'm moving my hip and then moving the clubs. Moving my hip and then moving the clubs. Moving my hip and then moving the clubs. And the best way to do it is to turn all the way to the right, let's say, turn the hip and then move the club. Turn the hip and then move the club. I'm going to show you this with a little bit lighter club, 2-pound clubs. I'll move the clubs off to the side, move the clubs off to the side. Now I can put the club on the top or on the bottom. Here it is on the bottom, here it's chambered on the bottom, here it's chambered on the top. You'll see a little difference in this. This would help a baseball player. This, if you want to do it lower, is going to help you golfers. But the idea is you want to get in touch with the hip. You don't want to neglect it during the movement. You don't want to just go like this. I want to go. Now that was just a little bit right before the swing of the club. And then that catches up. Same thing with this direction. And you can do it on any plane you want. You can do it like a helicopter, or excuse me, like an airplane propeller in front of your face. You can do it more at a 45-degree angle, like I'm showing you here. But this is the motion. I'm turning my waist and then moving the club. Turning my waist and then moving the club. Turning my waist and then moving the club. And then I'll put it together. But I'm really asking the hips to move, making the hips move, getting the hips to move first before I actually bring the club into play. So when you see me swing the stick, this is what I do when I'm actually moving the stick rapidly, quickly. When I'm moving it in from this position, it's my hip that's moving the stick. The same thing with the backhanded motion. I'm always concentrating on pulling the scapula back. This also has to do with blocking, but I'm moving the hip, moving the hip, moving the hip first, like this. But some people would say, well, you're telegraphing the movement. It's so fast for most individuals that they don't pick up on that hip movement first. It could be, they would think it might be an advancing movement, a retreating movement, and it can be done in any way you want. Sidestepping movement, but the whole idea is that you're going to turn that hip, then bring that instrument into play, whether it be a golf club, a baseball bat, the hand, the arm itself for punching. It doesn't matter what it is. A baseball, and you're going to throw a baseball. You want to engage that hip. Engage the hip. You'll notice they actually are exaggerating by actually lifting up their other leg. We're starting with large movement, like in almost every Asian martial art I ever studied. They always talk about big movement to small movement. So what I'm suggesting is exaggerate the movements, really get in touch with what you're trying to use, and if you'll watch, that gives you an example. I'm moving the hip, It's cocked, it's bound, the muscles are bound, they're ready to go, they're ready to fire, and then I move my hip. Excuse me, my upper body. Move my hip, I'm tight, and then move my upper body. So give that a try, see if that helps you in developing. It doesn't telegraph the movement if it's done fast, because you're actually putting them so closely together that by the time the person even sees the hand movement, you're most likely already almost on target. At any rate, I hope that's helpful. I hope that helps you to understand the clubs a little bit better and how to generate a little bit more power from the hips. Thank you.